What if I told you the very problems you wish would go away are the greatest gifts to your soul? Today, we're diving into why we should be grateful for problems and how they shape who we are. You are listening to Healing with Haley, episode 43, Sculpting the Soul, Why We Should Be Grateful for Our Problems. Welcome to Healing with Haley. I'm your coach, Haley Kirk. On this podcast, we dive into ways to heal, embrace, and truly love our lives. Here's my belief. So much of our suffering comes from what we believe. I'm here to help you understand your mind and question those thoughts to start your healing journey. Ready to get started? Let's go. Welcome, my friends. It is a Saturday night. I have the crock pot going, making a yummy beef stew with potatoes and carrots and thyme. And I'm kind of just twiddling my thumbs and I'm like, let's record a podcast about some of the things I've been thinking about as we do. Think all day long. We don't even do it, it just does it on its own. I wanted to talk about this amazing idea that I heard from Tony Robbins. And it's the idea that problems are temporary, that problems shape our soul. Problems sculpt our soul. And I thought to myself, without problems, we would be these gushy, squishy little amoebas, I think. I just feel like these perfectly floating clouds. It's kind of weird to kind of think about that type of dystopia, right? I think it'd be a dystopia. It would just be meh. It'd be so bland. If you really thought about, okay, if I had zero problems in my life, I would be so bored, right? It's boring. Anyway, back on topic. So I really wanted to articulate this idea more with a story that I heard in the one of Tolle's books. I can't even think of the name, but it might even been one of his podcasts. So this is what I do usually. If I'm obsessed with an author and I love what they're saying, I just devour their content over and over and over again. So this is the story of the Chinese farmer, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. That evening, all of his neighbors came around to commiserate. They said, "We are so sorry to hear your horse has run away. This is most unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back bringing 7 wild horses with it. And in the evening, everybody came back and said, "Oh, isn't that lucky? What a great turn of events. You now have 8 horses." The farmer said again, "Maybe." The following day, his son tried to break one of his horses, and while riding it, he was thrown and broke in his leg. The neighbors then said, "Oh dear, that's too bad." And the farmer responded, "Maybe." The next day, the conscription officers came around to conscript people into the army, and they rejected his son because he had broken his leg. Again, all the neighbors came around and said, "Isn't that great?" Again, he said, "Maybe." The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it's really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequence of the misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequence of good fortune. Alan Watts. And so, as we come to the close of 2024, and the holidays are coming around, and all kinds of emotions are picking up. And some of my favorite spiritual leaders, they always say the greatest test of your enlightenment is spending a weekend with your family. And I feel like it brings up all our triggers, it brings up all our hot buttons. And I I think it's such a great problem, quote unquote, to have is family. Families create a lot of problems and a lot of emotions, and not to say families are problems, but in families, it's a lot of human emotion and mistake making and all these beautiful things. And so I really wanted to touch on this today. And it's so interesting, right? If you think about family life, right? It's not always problematic. There's usually some times where problems resolve or subside. And it's like a wave, right? There's this impermanence of a problem. They come and they go. And when we look at a problem, instead of it, I've actually had this really cool experience recently where something happened and it triggered so much anger in me. I was so angry and so frustrated by this circumstance. And I just let myself be angry, right? And it was time sensitive-ish and required a quick response. But I just loved that I let my emotions be because that's kind of how the body works, right? The body it functions a lot like a fire alarm, as we've talked about on the podcast before. It's it doesn't know the difference between the house burning and a burger burning on the stove, right? And so the nervous system just becomes activated, right? That fire alarm just starts going beep, 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 beep. Something's happening, something's not right. And so we want to give ourselves so much grace and patience and love and compassion and be like, I am very upset right now. My nervous system is activated. I am activated. Something has been pushed. And one of my favorite authors, David Kessler, he co-authored the Five Stages of Grief and then later wrote the Sixth Stage of Grief, which is finding meaning. He likes to ask this question, like, who put those buttons there? Why are those buttons there? Whatever triggers or buttons that people are pushing. And that's such a great question to ask, right? It's like, oh, wow, like I had never thought of that. But we can't get into that place of self-reflection until we've allowed those emotions to process through our body. And so, one of my favorite ways to just tap into my body is to exercise or to dance and stretch and really love on that body. And allow a little bit of getting out of my head, right? And so after I was at the gym, it just felt really good to just be mad. And I just let myself be mad. And there was that inner voice, right? The ego or the incessant voice in our head. A lot of people give it a lot of names. Was trying to tell me to not feel those emotions. Like, oh, you shouldn't be mad. You're a life coach. You should not be mad. That's not what you want to be all the time. And I'm like, you're right, but I am. And I don't want to argue with reality. I really don't like staying in anger, but I think it's important for me to feel angry right now because I am. And so I just allowed myself to be angry. And, there were a couple people at the gym that were like, they noticed a difference in my demeanor. And they were, just like, what's up? And I let them know. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, great. Wait, to release. And so, it felt good. It felt good. Love my gym family and my gym community. And it's just such a beautiful place to build, to process, to release. I love that method of tapping into my body. I'd love to know what methods you guys use. So in social media, if you're ever on social media or Healing with Haley, let me know in the comments, some of your favorite methods of releasing those emotions. And so I realized though, I learned something so important from that circumstance. I learned how I don't need to answer people right away. I really don't. I think it's very important for me to show up in my authentic self. And in that moment, I was very angry and I was very triggered and I didn't allow myself to respond in an emotion I didn't want to respond in, right? And it's cool because it's appropriate to respond in anger in certain situations, right? If you're being threatened with your life, if someone's threatening your children, your home, your property, right? Like those are appropriate ways to respond in anger. Now, when it's something in regards to business or intimate relationships, friendships, right? I don't show up well when I respond in anger. So I'll speak for myself. And I feel like most human beings will all generally agree that they show up best when they have the emotions of love, the emotions of peace, compassion, understanding. They show up so much better in those ways. So that problem subsided. It didn't last. And there are problems that do last a while. But imagine a world with no problems, right? This is a really cool example. If you imagine a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble, revealing the masterpiece within it, each of our problems are shaping us and building us resilience and compassion and understanding, right? And so I think that these problems, and it's so fun. One of my favorite authors, his name is Matthew Hussey. He wrote the book called Love Life, and I'm trying to improve my love life. So I read the book, and one of my favorite things that he talked about was it was a chapter, the very last chapter of the book. He was really trying to encourage women to, no matter what we've been through, to dare bravely and to go out into the dating world and go for it, right? And that our problems or whatever has happened to us makes us interesting. He's like, I would much rather have the weathered version of you than like this packaged, perfect, pretty, never been hurt before, if you will. These are totally words out of context of his book, but I'm interpreting them in the way that I understood them and felt them. And I loved that. It's like, as much as, I kind of think about dolls, right? Like you, a porcelain doll is very beautiful to look at, right? It's like beautiful to look at and to play with, but like we're not dolls. We're human beings, and we live and we breathe and we suffer and we conquer and we have these beautiful dichotomies that we experience in life, and that's what shapes us. Truly, it's creating this masterpiece, right? We chisel, we saw at this marble. That's our vessel, and a metaphoric vessel. It's not even just our physical bodies, but our emotional, spiritual bodies as well. And I really love this idea of solving a problem. So if a problem comes to you, here's what comes to mind. Four things. Pause and reflect on the problem. So some things like problem, right? Uh, Not enough money to cover bills. Friend is mad at you. Partner is mad at you. Child is mad at you. Family members are mad at you. Someone's disappointed that you said no to them. Someone you said you were going to be at some place, and then it turns out you can't go or don't want to go. Problem. If you can just pause and go inside of you. Okay, this sucks, right? This sucks. Okay, let's just let it suck for a second, right? Okay, now we know it sucks. How are we feeling? Yeah, I'm super angry. Oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Can't believe this is happening. Ugh, this person should have said this, should have done this. How dare they? Da, 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 da. Let the ego have its like temper tantrum. So important to have temper tantrums, guys, in a safe place, right? And then allow it. Allow the experience without resistance, right? Like you shouldn't be mad. You shouldn't be mad. Like you're a life coach. You're a mom. You're a professional. You're supposed to be the example of no, be a stoic, no emotion. And no, what if we just accept it? Okay, all right, this problem sucks. I'm very disappointed about the problem. I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I'm angry, I'm livid, I'm just judgmental, I have regret, right? All these emotions. And then I like to it, and this is gradual, right? You don't do this one after the other, but let some time pass in each step, right? And really get into your body, really get into the body. And I feel like that acceptance piece, number two, comes with tapping into the body. I would almost say pause and reflect. Number two, tap into the body and accept. Tap into the body, accept the emotion. Tap into the body, accept the emotion. Then later, later, maybe like a day later, find some gratitude. Be like, wow, look at what that problem taught me. What did I learn from this? How did that problem teach me? How did that problem stretch me in ways I've never been stretched before? And sometimes you might need to take action before gratitude. And these aren't like linear, but I definitely think what's linear is pause and reflect, tap into the body. Pause and reflect, tap into the body, and accept. Yeah, those three I would say are pretty linear. But the actions and gratitude, I think taking action might come before gratitude, right? Like, I'm going to set a boundary here. I'm going to communicate this here. I'm going to, regardless of how this person might feel about this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm not willing to do. And it's okay. I'm going to let other people have their emotions because I'm having mine. I'm going to let other people have theirs. That's totally acceptable. And I'm going to give people time as well because I'm giving me time. Well, I'm going to give people time. And yeah, I recently just this week had that two or three of those experiences. And it's so powerful allowing yourself to pause and embrace and accept the emotion that you're having. And then, okay, how am I going to process this? Tap into the body. What can I do? Can I go for a walk? Can I go to the gym? Can I dance? Can I jump? Can I run? Can I walk outside? Can I clean the house? Rage cleaning. Can I organize something? Just really tap into that beautiful body. And then later on, have some gratitude and action. And I want you guys to take this episode and try to apply it to your lives. What's an example of a time where you had a really big problem? And and how did it sculpt you? How did it stretch you? How did it refine you in a way that would never have happened if you didn't have that problem? It's mind-boggling how much problems really take us to that next level. And how have you, I want to give you an opportunity to be grateful for the problem in a way, but more so, I want you to be grateful for how you showed up and how you turned that experience into something that was really beautiful. Guys, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your loyalty, for your time. I very much so appreciate your time. I know there are so many ways to spend it. There's a multitudinous of options to listen or engage in media, and I'm very grateful that you chose to engage in mine. I hope my content is enriching, fulfilling, empowering, useful, gives you some tools to apply into your daily life to improve your life. If you enjoy this podcast, I would so be so appreciative if you shared it with someone, if you shared it on social media, if you texted it to a friend. It means a lot and it goes a long way. So, my loves, have an amazing Thanksgiving, fall season, Christmas season, and I will chat with you guys later. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Healing with Haley. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you'll love my new 6-week coaching program. It's designed to help women embrace and love their bodies just as they are. Together, we'll explore your thoughts, meet them with compassion, and start releasing the ones that hold you back. Ready to start your journey to self-love? Join me and let's make this change together. Click the link in the podcast description below.